Thank you, Minister, for coming to the House. And the Fianna Fáil party will be supporting the extension of the protections for renters up until the 13th of July, as this bill proposes. It is really important that we are very clear with renters. I deal with people every day who are either homeless or at risk of becoming homeless, or in inadequate housing. Unfortunately, my constituency is one that has really suffered from the decade of under-provision of housing. So I know how valuable the protections that this government has afforded renters, and rightly afforded renters during the pandemic. And I suppose at no time has home been more important than during this pandemic, and it has really provided for those lucky enough to have a home a safe place. But the fact that the government had to allocate more than €220 million in terms of homeless prevention and emergency accommodation only underlines how real the housing crisis is for far too many of our citizens. So the housing crisis hasn't gone away, and I haven't been as far as the M50 since before Christmas. I would love to see the 5-kilometre limit. I envy the members who come from the country and fantasise about, you know, stowing into the boot of their car and getting outside of the city as much as I love it. But in all seriousness, you know, the indications from the industry are that it's going to cost us about 10,000 housing units, this delay, the shutdown in construction. So it's very real. The crisis is very real. And in terms of this bill and this legislation, what we are doing is extending the protections for renters, which would have expired if we had asserted our right as a committee to conduct pre-legislative scrutiny. It would have had catastrophic, that was the exact term that we were told, catastrophic effect, because the protections that are in place up until the 13th of April would have expired. Now what we're doing is extending them until the 13th of July. And Minister, I accept your bona fides and the Department's bona fides that you will continue to monitor this situation. I think it is incredibly important, though, that we also get a clear message out to people outside this chamber that the state and the government does have its back and is there to support it. And I want to commend everyone in the local authorities, in Threshold, in MABs, in the Intrio offices, all of those people who have worked in the front line during this pandemic, who have supported people who've applied for housing assistance payment or rent allowance or homeless HAP or a supplementary welfare payment, because they have provided invaluable supports to individuals and to families. And you know, far too many of our homeless people are actually single people. They're terribly isolated and very vulnerable, and they have really appreciated the support that has been provided. And also by the NGOs, you know, the voluntary and NGOs and the people who work there, the key workers and the support workers, all of whom have been a lifeline to people in housing distress over this period. I want, Minister, though, to look forward to, I suppose, a day when we can start to think beyond the pandemic. And, you know, we have to use our time here to leave something behind us which will mean that those who come after us will not be dealing with the same issues. And we need a systemic change in terms of the state's approach to housing. And I know you know that, Minister, and I know Darragh O'Brien, Minister, gets that, and I commend you both for securing the biggest housing budget in the history of the state at €3.3 billion, but we're going to need to go a lot further than that. And I suppose there's been an undersupply of homes over the last 10 years, so you know, it's not going to, you didn't get your job and Darragh O'Brien didn't get his job with a magic wand, and the pandemic has hit you too. So, you know, I appreciate your back is against the wall, but in terms of changing this dynamic into the future for our citizens, you're bringing forward legislation that is going to prioritise the use of public land to provide public housing. We need that to be social and affordable housing. Our local authorities have been restricted to just public housing and social housing. Minister, we need to prioritise the Affordable Housing Bill and the Land Development Bill so that the local authorities, the approved housing bodies, the not-for-profit NGOs, that all of those agencies can be put to work as soon as this pandemic is over to deliver affordable housing and not just the social housing, but both. And the affordable housing has to be affordable housing both to purchase and rent. And you and I both know, Minister, that the affordable rental scheme that's being brought forward is a great hope to people, because what it means is renters will only be paying rent to cover the cost of the maintenance and management of their homes. And that's how it should be: secure, affordable, good quality homes provided by the state on state lands. Minister, I would urge you, we've had a shutdown. The government hasn't been able to, I'm sure, get through spending as much of its housing budget as it has had allocated. I urge you, Minister, to go back to the Minister for Finance and to ask him to look at, and the rest of the Cabinet, increasing the allocation for the affordable rental scheme. I understand why it was set the way it was, but circumstances change. We need to change with that. And I would ask you to look for a doubling of the budget for the affordable rental scheme. I think that is something that would be a sound investment and would give hope to a lot of renters. And I would also ask you, and I'm conscious my time is running out, Minister, but in the programme for government, there is a commitment for a commission on housing. And I just think that when we talk about, every time we talk about these protections that we're trying to bring for our citizens, so that every citizen can have a place to call home, a secure and affordable home, I really do think we as a Seanad and you, Minister, as part of a government, need to champion an amendment to our constitution so that our constitution is updated to reflect that social ambition, that current and future social ambition that I believe we all share, that every one of our citizens would have a place to call home, a secure and affordable home. And Minister, I would ask you to take that back to Cabinet so that when we move forward over the next 3 years, that we do so in the context of seeking a mandate from the people to have a constitutional amendment to insert the right to housing in our constitution, so that we will give expression to what I consider to be the current social value that we all subscribe to, which is that every one of our citizens deserves to have their own home. Gura Mágat, Minister.